Hi class, let's talk about the page in your packet called Using Literary Devices. So make sure you have your packet and your pencil ready and use the pause button when you want to so that I don't go too fast for you. Well, on my screen you see the page that you should have in your packet. The first blank is about flashbacks. This one is already done for you in the packet. But make sure you read through it because it is interesting to think about the times in the story where the author uses the device of flashbacks. It's a tool in your toolbox. Next, let's talk about foreshadowing. What is going to happen in the future, and it is predicted or hinted about in the dialogue. Well, I can think of something. Can you? What about all the times Bud says, "Here we go again"? So let's get that written in there. Now let's talk about hyperbole. Hyperbole is exaggeration that's used to make a point. Hyperbole is very funny in the story of Bud Not Buddy, isn't it? And one of the times I can think about where exaggeration was used was in chapter 18 when it said Mr. Calloway was holding the rock so tight they'd turn into dust or diamonds. So let's add that in as an example, and maybe you can think of one or you can use the same one. Onomatopoeia is next. Love that word. That should be on our spelling list. Onomatopoeia is when words or phrases are used, but they're used like a sound, like hiss or bang. I bet I know what you're thinking of for this one. In Bud Not Buddy, what was that sound that he would talk about and he would use these words often? Do you remember what that was? Let's get it written in. There's lots of onomatopoeia in the story, but I just picked out the funny whoop, zoop, swoop because we always really like reading those parts. Rhetorical question is next. This is when the author asks a question that there's really no answer expected. Let's think about when that is. Bud does that quite often. I think it's chapter 16 where one of the band members says to Bud, "Were your ears burning?" Have you ever heard that? It's something someone might say when they're talking about you, right? Let's write that in. Simile is next. A simile is a word or a phrase that compares one thing to another, and you'll see the words like or as. This was used often in Bud Not Buddy as well. I can think of he slept like a baby, he fights like a tiger, and he slept like a dead man. Those are just a few I thought of in those last chapters. Maybe you can think of another one. And the final literary device that we're going to talk about here is metaphor. A metaphor is a word or a phrase that directly compares one thing to another. So it usually does not have the word like or as. That would be a simile. There were many metaphors. The one I'm thinking of most recently in the book that I can think of is the one where Mr. Calloway compares Bud to, and he says, he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Of course, Bud is not a knife, but a metaphor is when he's being compared to a knife, right? So these are some of the fun literary devices that were used in Bud Not Buddy, and authors use literary devices as tools when they're writing. It makes the writing very interesting and fun to read. All right, see you next time.